Your miracle is not late. It is standing behind you. And the enemy has spent years making sure you never turn around. Chosen one, sit with that. Because everything you have been told about your situation assumes one thing, that the answer has not been released yet. That heaven is still deliberating. That somewhere above you there is a file with your name on it, and God has not gotten to it. And as long as you believe that, you will keep doing the one thing that costs you the most. You will keep facing the door you have been facing for years, praying at a hallway that already emptied out, while the thing you asked for sits behind you in the room, breathing, waiting for you to acknowledge it exists. My name is George, and I have spent a long time now sitting with people in the strange, quiet hours of the waiting. Kitchen tables at 11 at night, church parking lots, a hospital waiting room where a woman held her phone in both hands like it was going to ring if she just squeezed it hard enough. And I will tell you the thing that took me the longest to understand. The thing I got wrong for years in my own life. The enemy almost never fights you over whether God will answer. He is not that clumsy. He fights you over whether God already has. Think about what that would mean. If the enemy cannot stop the answer, and he cannot, that is not a power he was given, then his entire operation collapses into one strategy. Keep you sitting. Keep you in the posture of a person who has not received anything. Keep the phrase "not yet" in your mouth, because as long as you are saying "not yet," you will not get up. You will not walk over. You will not open the thing. You will not look. And a delivered miracle that nobody walks over to receive will sit in a room untouched for years. That is what I want to take apart with you today. Not whether it is coming. Whether you have already been living next to it. There was a season in Israel's history when a city starved to death with a full pantry 4 miles away. Samaria was under siege. The Syrian army had ringed the walls and simply waited, which is the cheapest way to kill a city. You do not have to break anything. You just have to stop the food. And it worked. The famine inside those walls got so severe that the scripture records prices that make your stomach turn. And it records 2 mothers making an agreement I will not repeat here in detail, except to say that the king of Israel tore his clothes when he heard it. And underneath his robes the people saw he was wearing sackcloth. He had been mourning privately the whole time. He was already grieving the outcome, while the outcome was still being decided. And in the middle of that, the prophet Elisha said a sentence that sounded insane. Tomorrow, about this time, food will be so cheap at the gate of Samaria that a man will buy a bushel for pocket change. There was an officer standing there. A man the king leaned on, that is the exact phrase scripture uses. The Lord on whose hand the king leaned, and he laughed. He said, even if God opened windows in heaven, this could not happen. And Elisha told him, you will see it with your eyes. You will not eat of it. Now hold that, because here is where it gets real. That same night, 4 men were sitting at the entrance of the gate. Lepers. Outside the wall, because the law kept them outside the wall, which means they were starving faster than everybody else, on the wrong side of the only door in the world that mattered to them. And these 4 men had a conversation in the dark that I think is one of the most important conversations in the entire Bible for anybody watching this right now. They said to each other, why are we sitting here until we die? Look at what they actually reasoned out. If we go into the city, the famine is in the city, and we die there. If we sit still here, we die here. Same ending. Then let us get up and go over to the Syrian camp. If they kill us, we die. And if they let us live, we live. Either way, sitting is the one option guaranteed to end us. So at twilight, 4 sick men who had every excuse in the world got up and walked toward the army that was killing their city. And they found it empty. Empty, tents standing, fires still going, horses tied, silver and gold and clothing left in the dirt, bread on the ground. The Lord had made the Syrian army hear a sound in the night: chariots, horses, a great host, and they had run in the dark and left everything exactly where it stood. Now I need you to catch the timing, because the timing is the whole message. The Syrians fled at some point in the night. The 4 men found the camp at twilight, which means for hours, Chosen One, the deliverance of that city was already complete. The siege was already broken. The food was already there. And people inside those walls were still dying of hunger. Not because God had withheld anything, but because nobody had walked out to see. That is the thing I want you to feel today. The city did not starve because the miracle was late. The city starved because the miracle arrived at night, and everybody was asleep in their grief. And I have watched this exact pattern in the lives of real people for years. I knew a man who kept a truck under a tarp in his side yard for 4 years. It was his father's. He was going to restore it, and then his father died, and the project became a shrine, and the tarp went on. And every time anybody in the family asked about it, he said the same sentence: "I'm waiting until I have the time." 4 years. That truck had a title in a drawer, and an engine that turned over, and a buyer down the road who would have paid him real money. And he stood at his kitchen window, looking at that shape under the blue plastic, and told himself he had nothing. He was not poor. He was unopened. I knew a woman who kept a door in her hallway closed for 6 years. Everybody in her church knew what was behind that door, and nobody said anything. Because how do you say anything? She prayed for God to heal her heart every single day of those 6 years. And the healing came. It actually came. It came the year she started laughing again at the potluck table, but she never opened the door. So in her own mind, she was still exactly where she had been. She had the miracle. She did not have the room. And I have sat with couples who moved into a house and left half the boxes packed in the garage for years because some part of them did not believe the season was real yet. They were living in the answer to a prayer they had prayed on their knees, and they were living in it like a motel. That is what a siege mentality does to a person. It does not just survive the famine. It survives the deliverance. You can be fed and still be starving in your head, and the enemy will take that outcome every single time. Because he never had the power to stop the bread. He only ever had the power to keep you at the gate. So let me give you what I actually came here to give you. Let me tell you how you know your miracle has already arrived. Because it does not usually announce itself the way you imagined. You have been watching for a parting sky. Heaven tends to move like the Syrian camp, quietly, at night, in a way you have to walk toward before you can confirm it. The first sign is peace that shows up before the proof does. This is the one people dismiss the fastest. You have been in agony over a situation for months, and then one ordinary morning you notice the agony is gone. Nothing changed. The bank account is the same. The diagnosis is the same. The person still is not speaking to you. But the frantic thing in your chest has been lifted out and set down somewhere, and you can breathe, and you almost feel guilty about it. Like you have stopped caring, like you are being irresponsible by not worrying. Chosen One, that is not numbness, and that is not you giving up. That is heaven letting you feel the result before you can see the result. Peace is a receipt. When God settles a thing in the courts of heaven, the first delivery is almost always to your spirit, and the circumstances catch up afterward. If the war inside you ended before the war outside you ended, that is your notification. Stop treating it like apathy. The second sign is that you lost your appetite for the version you were begging for. You used to want it a specific way, a specific person, a specific door, that specific city, that specific company, that specific timeline. And somewhere along the way you noticed you would not actually take it anymore if it came in that exact shape. It does not sting like it used to. You can hear their name now. You can drive past the building now. People read that as loss. It is not loss. It is God removing your grip so He can put the real thing in your hand. And He never takes the first thing out unless the second thing is already at the door. Nobody empties a hand for nothing. The third sign is the sudden increase in noise. I want you to be very honest about the last few months. Has it gotten louder? Old accusations resurfacing. Somebody from 10 years ago suddenly on your phone. Strange conflict in your house over things that never used to matter. A physical exhaustion nobody can explain. A dream that woke you up at 3 in the morning with your heart going. The enemy does not waste ammunition on people who are stuck. He is not spending resources on a man who is going nowhere. When the noise spikes, it is because something has been released, and he has one job left, which is to make you turn back before you reach it. That racket around you is not evidence that God abandoned the project. It is the sound of an army that just heard chariots. The fourth sign is the small door you already dismissed. This one costs people the most. You ask God for provision, and 11 days ago somebody offered you something small, a shift, a contact, a room, a conversation, a name, and you said no. Or you said maybe. Or you said thank you and never followed up, because it was too small to be the answer. It did not look like a miracle. It looked like an inconvenience. The 4 men at the gate did not receive a bushel of grain from heaven that night. They received an idea. Why are we sitting here until we die? That was the whole miracle at the moment it arrived. It was a thought. The gold and the bread were 4 miles of walking away from the thought. Most miracles arrive as an assignment before they arrive as a gift. If your prayers have recently gone quiet on comfort and started giving you instructions, call Him. Go back to school. Sell it. Apologize first. Get up at 5. Go to the second church that is not God ignoring your request. That is the answer, in its earliest form, telling you what direction to walk in the dark. And the 5th sign is that people have started coming back. You were forgotten for a long stretch. Nobody called. Then, in the space of a few weeks, 3 people reached out. Somebody apologized. Somebody who never noticed you asked for your opinion. A door you knocked on years ago sent an email out of nowhere. It felt random. It is not random. Favor moves ahead of the visible answer, like light moves ahead of sunrise. When people start finding you again after a season of being invisible, something above you has shifted, and the room is adjusting to a decision that was already made. And there is one more thing I have to say before we go further, because it is the part that undoes people. Gideon was down in a winepress beating out wheat. A winepress is a hole. It is not where you thresh grain up in the open, where the wind can carry the chaff away, but the enemy was raiding everything that season. So Gideon was hiding his family's food in a pit, doing the work of a farmer in the posture of a fugitive. And an angel sat down under an oak tree nearby and said to him, "The Lord is with you, mighty man of valor." Present tense. Not you will become. Not one day, if you clean yourself up. He said it to a frightened man crouched in a hole with dust on his face and one eye on the road. And Gideon answered him exactly the way you would have answered, "If the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all His miracles that our fathers told us about?" He had been praying for a deliverer to be sent to Israel. He was talking to a messenger who had just told him he was the deliverer, and he could not hear it, because he was measuring his calling by the depth of the pit he was standing in. Chosen one, that conversation is happening in your life right now. Heaven is speaking to you in the present tense about something you are still asking for in the future tense. And the gap between those two tenses is where whole years disappear. There are messages that pass through your eyes, and there are messages that pass through your spirit. If something in you recognized itself while watching, don't dismiss it. That is the Spirit confirming what was already written. The secret protocol carries 7 keys that unveil what heaven deposited in you before you ever arrived, things no one around you has ever been able to name. It comes with the full audiobook for your moments of prayer, silence, and encounter with God. And you also receive the Awakening Map, the guide that illuminates the 5 seasons of spiritual awakening, revealing with precision exactly where you are and what comes next. The link is pinned in the first comment, but only for a limited time. Don't let this moment pass without a response. Now let me deal with the question I know is sitting in your throat right now. If it already came, why does it feel like nothing has happened? There was a man who prayed and got no answer for 3 weeks. Daniel. He fasted. He mourned. He ate no pleasant bread, no meat, no wine, for 21 days. And at the end of it, a messenger finally reached him and said something that should permanently change the way you understand your own delays. He said, "From the first day that you set your heart to understand and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard. I was sent because of your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. From the first day, the answer left on day 1. The delivery got contested. And for 3 weeks, Daniel had no idea that what he was praying for was already in motion, already dispatched, already his, and the only thing he could see from where he sat was silence. Chosen one. If that man could pray a prayer that was answered instantly, and still spend 21 days feeling ignored, then your silence is not a verdict. Your silence might be traffic. The interference in your life is not proof that nothing was sent. Interference is proof that something is coming through territory that does not want it delivered. So what do you do with that? You do what the 4 lepers did. You get up while it is still dark, and you go look. Because here is the part nobody wants to hear. God broke the siege that night. But God did not carry the bread into Samaria. 4 men walked out and got it. The city ate the next day because somebody moved before the evidence was in. I think about the woman who had bled for 12 years. 12. She had spent everything she had on physicians and was worse instead of better. And by every law, she was unclean, which meant she was not supposed to be in that crowd at all. And when she heard about Jesus, she did not send a message and wait. She got into a crowd where she was not permitted, pushed her way through bodies, went low, and touched the edge of his clothing from behind, and he stopped in the middle of a moving street and asked who did it, and told her that her faith had made her whole. She had been sitting for 12 years, and the day the answer walked past her house, sitting would have cost her everything. I think about the night Peter was in prison, chained between 2 soldiers, sleeping, the night before he was to be executed. And the church was gathered at a house, praying for him. An angel woke him up. The chains fell off. He walked out past the guards and through a gate that opened by itself, and he went to the house where they were praying and knocked on the door. A servant girl named Rhoda came to the gate. She heard his voice. She was so overjoyed she ran back inside without opening the door, and she told the whole prayer meeting that Peter was standing outside. And they told her she was out of her mind. They were praying for Peter, with Peter knocking on the door. That is the entire warning of this message in one scene, and it happened in a house full of believers, not skeptics. Not to people with no faith, to people on their knees, It is possible to be so committed to your position of asking that you argue with the sound of your own answer. And I have to tell you about the officer, the one who leaned on the king's hand. He heard Elisha's word, and he mocked it. "Windows in heaven," he said. And the king put him in charge of the gate the next day. When the news broke, and the whole starving city came out through that gate to get the food that had been sitting there all night, the crowd trampled him in the gateway, and he died there. He saw it with his eyes. He did not eat of it. I do not say that to frighten you. I say it because there is a real cost to standing at the gate of your own breakthrough, with your arms folded. Doubt does not just make you sad. It positions you badly. It puts you in the doorway of the very thing you refuse to believe in, watching everybody else walk through with their arms full. So let me be blunt with you about what moving actually looks like this week, because I do not want to hand you a feeling and let you go back to the tarp and the closed door. Go look at the thing you have been avoiding. The envelope. The account. The message you never opened. The test results. The number. Whatever it is in your life that you have been leaving unread because you decided in advance what it says, go look at it. You are not protecting yourself. You are just refusing delivery. Make the call you have rehearsed for a year. The reconciliation you keep waiting to feel ready for is not waiting on your readiness. It is waiting on your dialing. Open the room. Unpack the boxes. Take the tarp off. Put your name on the list. Say yes to the small thing you dismissed as too small. Because small is exactly how it looked in the tents at twilight, before anybody counted what was in them. A man in a church I served used to eat lunch in his work truck every day, in the same gravel lot. And every day he drove past a building with a hand-painted sign in the window, advertising the exact trade he had trained for 20 years earlier, and never gone back to. He drove past it for 2 years. He told himself he would go in when he was ready, when things settled, when the season changed. He finally walked in on a Thursday, mostly out of frustration, and the man behind the counter had been trying to find somebody with his exact certification for 11 months, and had almost closed the shop over it. 2 years of driving past a door that was standing open, with his name written behind it. And stop describing your life with the vocabulary of the siege. You have a sentence you say about yourself. I have watched people carry one sentence for decades. Nothing ever works out for me. I always end up alone. I am always the one who gets passed over. That sentence is not a description. It is an assignment you keep re-signing. If God broke the siege in the night, then that sentence is a lie you are still repeating on the morning after your deliverance. When Lazarus had been dead 4 days, Jesus stood in front of the tomb and gave a command to the people standing there. Take away the stone. He did not need the help. The one who was about to call a dead man out of a grave could have moved a rock. But he asked human hands to remove the obstruction between a family and a miracle that was already decided in heaven, already spoken, already on its way out of that cave. There is a stone in your situation that is not God's to move. He has already made the decision. He has already released the answer. And there is one thing, with your handprints on it, that is standing between your life and what has already been granted, and every day you leave it there, you will keep grieving in front of a tomb that is about to be empty anyway. Here is what I want from you in the comments, and I want you to be specific, because vague prayers make vague people. Tell me the year the waiting started. Just the year. And then tell me the one thing in your house right now that has been sitting untouched since that year: the room, the box, the drawer, the tarp, the door, the folder, the name in your phone you never scroll past without pausing. Name it out loud, in writing. And then scroll and find somebody with your same year, and tell them what you are going to do this week about your untouched thing. That is not a comment section. That is 4 men at a gate deciding out loud that sitting is the only option that kills them. Because the tents were already empty. Chosen one. The fires were still burning, and the tables were still set, and the horses were still tied. And every hour those men stayed at that gate was an hour they spent starving inside a victory that had already been won. The Syrians left at midnight. The lepers moved at twilight. The whole city ate the next morning. The only thing that ever stood between the famine and the feast was the distance between sitting and getting up. Your camp is empty. Go look. And remember, everything I spoke about goes deeper inside the secret protocol. Pinned in the first comment. The 7 keys, the audiobook, and the awakening map are there waiting for you whenever you're ready to take the next step.